What is the best structure for your business? LLC, S Corp, sole proprietorship? What are some amazing ways to save on your taxes as an e-commerce business? Today, I'm interviewing Salim Omar. He is a CPA who specializes in e-commerce businesses, and I am so excited because we're answering all of those questions and more. These questions are actually from my students inside the Ultimate Etsy course and one-on-one coaching program. I would love for you to leave a comment below and let us know, do you do your own taxes? Or are you using a tax professional currently? I would also love to know if that tax professional has an e-commerce background or specializes in e-commerce. Without further ado, let's hop into this interview with Salim and we can help you save money on your taxes. All right, everyone, today I'm here with Salim Omar. I am so excited because he specializes in e-commerce businesses. Salim, could you share a little bit more about your background?
I am in business. I started my accounting firm some 26, 27 years ago and worked as a CFO in corporate America. And I was like, man, I don't like this corporate stuff and I want to start my own business. And that transformed from where I was to where, my firm is now, team of 15 people. I've got two businesses. One's the accounting firm. It's called Straight Talk. We work with, it's industry agnostic. And then we created a company that specializes with e-commerce. It's called essential.com. The best part is I'm surrounded and I'm working with other entrepreneurs, turning their dreams into a reality.
I have seen the power of having a good CPA. A good CPA pays for themselves in what they can save you. And I think what you're doing is amazing. A lot of, e-commerce business owners, sometimes they start out as just one person. They used to do their taxes at, TurboTax, and now they need to step it up and be more strategic. So I would love to just dive in and ask you some questions that our students in the Ultimate Etsy course and coaching have eagerly submitted for you to answer.
Yeah, let's dive right in.
First question is a good one to start with. How much should you be making in profit before you have to pay taxes?
So anything more than $400 is the amount that, anything under that is, the IRS says it's a hobby, but anything over $400 is you gotta report that on your tax return.
Now, would that be $400 per platform? Like what if you did $400 on Shopify and then $400 on Etsy?
In aggregate, it would be a total of all of it.
This is kind of a funny one on totally going left field here, but when you go on a research trip, maybe to collect product ideas and your family comes with you, like your husband, your kids, what type of documentation should you have and what parts of this could you write off?
The benefit of having a small business is the deductions and the write-offs that one can take. And if we do this in a smart way to deduct all the direct expenses like supplies, and then there is a set of expenses that are indirect expenses. And these are expenses that are personal in nature, but if we can connect it to our business, then they become business expenses. It's the cell phone. Am I talking to my two kids on my phone? Yeah, I am. But it's also primarily used for business. So I can deduct a portion of it now. Same with the spouse. The husband can become a team member. So now they've got a role and now they're coming in and husband and wife taking this business trip, a research trip, it becomes deductible. Food, travel, lodging, and all that. Give the husband a business card and a title.
There we go. And is it a certain percentage? I heard somewhere, I think that it was like 50% of the trip, including travel days, has to be business related. Is that true?
Correct. Let's say that this person is going for a trip for 5 days. 1 day is strictly pleasure and 4 days is business. Then I would do an allocation, right? They're spending $1,000 and I'd allocate that as $200 per day. And then I take 4 days. So it's an $800 deduction.
A lot of our students are, one person businesses here. What should they be doing like every month to make their kind of bookkeeping and bookwork faster at the end of the year?
So the thing is just to doing it on a regular basis, built in the discipline of doing this either daily or weekly at the end of the week, rather than waiting till the end of the month. Getting help is important, really scaling a business. If we want to grow it to the next level, building a team is going to be important. So bringing in a VA, somebody, who can do this fairly inexpensively. If it's a small business, if they feel like it's becoming overwhelming for them and they're not enjoying it, then why do it, right? Let's get somebody who is good at it, who enjoys it, to do it so that we can then do stuff that we're good at and enjoy doing.
What size of a business do you see kind of start with hiring that out?
When it's a very small business, it's really based on the number of transactions and revenue size. But if it's, a few transactions and it can easily be handled by the person, then I just say do it yourself. But once you start getting where I like, man, there's lots of transactions, a lot of tracking of expenses and fees and charges and expenses, then I'd bring in a VA. So
I think it's a great reminder that a VA can be a very affordable way to manage this. You don't have to do it yourself. We have a lot of international students as well. Some are looking to open an LLC in the US. How easy is that to do? And how much does it cost? What's required?
Come across, I have a lot of conversations with folks in Europe that are looking to start a business. And then what I would say is, form an LLC in a business-friendly state like Wyoming or Texas. They're going to need a taxpayer ID number, so they can apply for that. It takes 4 to 6 weeks, but then they've got a taxpayer ID number. They can form that LLC. They're registered in the US to conduct business.
So it's really not that difficult, it sounds like.
It's not. No.
Yeah, so that's a great option that people should consider, especially certain countries don't allow Etsy shops. So what about this? Someone has 2 different Etsy shops. They're wondering if they should separate those for tax purposes or just file everything under their social security number.
The only reason to separate things out, and it happens commonly in the real estate space, if somebody owns real estate rental properties, they'll try and have different LLCs. And the reason is you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. In the case of an Etsy store, if liability is not an issue, you don't need to do it for tax purposes. You can keep it all in one. There's different ways to set up an entity. One is the sole proprietorship, the easiest way to set it up. With that legal structure comes with its problems in that there's no legal protection. If somebody is just starting out and liability is not an issue for them, sole proprietorship is fine. But if once the business starts taking off, or if they've got the financial resources and they want to do it, right, an LLC, limited liability company, is the way to go. Then the third way to conduct business is an S corporation. One of my favorite ways to set it up. When you set up as an S corp, you would pay yourself salary, reasonable and controlled and low, so that you save money on self-employment tax, Social Security and Medicare tax, which amounts to 15.3%. So I've seen folks that save $10,000-$15,000 a year because they've made that conversion from an LLC into an S corp.
That's great. Now, at what point, should a business consider becoming an S corp?
I'd get that done sooner than later. Somebody is making 30,000 net profit, 40,000 and upwards. I'd then split that income. So let's say it's 30,000. I'd split that income and do 10,000 salary, 20,000 in a K1 distribution.
Yeah.
Right. So 20,000, 15.3%, that's $3,000 that can be used in any way you want to use that money for.
Really good recommendation. And what do you think is a really good way to save for retirement?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts that come to mind, Dylan. One is setting up a retirement plan. It's a plan called a simple plan, or it can be a SEP plan. One of my favorite methods is to put money away into a Roth IRA because that money grows tax-free. So you don't get the deduction now, but the money that you put away, it grows. And then when you're ready to pull that money out, you don't pay any tax on that. So let's say you invest $5,000 and after 20 years, it's $100,000. When you pull the $100,000, you don't pay any tax on that money, which is pretty awesome.
That's great. Can you do this for your children?
You can, absolutely. Yes, you can hire your kids and put them on payroll, give them a salary, create some responsibilities for them, and you pay them $5,000 a year or $6,000 a year, which equates to like $500 a month. And that money can be all invested into a Roth IRA. You've got the 16-year-old or 17-year-old or 15-year-old that's making money. They're building their Roth IRA account at that young age as the owner as a deduction. So you're benefiting as a business owner because most likely the entrepreneur, the owner is at a higher tax bracket. So they get a deduction. They're able to put all that money away into a Roth IRA. And now they're seeing this $6,000 amass to a good sum of money.
That's great. And you're keeping it in the family. That's wonderful. A lot of our students, they are nervous about doing something wrong, getting audited or, the IRS, you don't want to get in trouble. And there's a lot of questions about like, what type of documentation do they need to hold on to? A lot of times even retailers, they don't even give you paper receipts anymore. Do they need to be saving every single receipt? For how long? What would you say about documentation?
7 years is typically the period of time when you want to keep documentation. The chances of an IRS audit are quite low, just making sure that there are no red flags. You've got an amount that's so extravagant in something, in meals or in travel or something, year after year, then you're kind of asking for trouble. Keeping receipts is good. It's important. There's a requirement to keep the receipts. If you're going out for a meal, I'd kind of document that went out for a meal with my husband, discussed business. Just be prolific and try and do as much of that as possible.
Yes. Something is interesting. In an audit, let's say the student here has handmade items. They have a lot of inventory. Does someone from the IRS come to your house and start sorting through and trying to calculate, do you actually have this inventory?
It's never happened in my career, which spans 30 years. They're not going for the small business, it's not worth their while. It's not worth the IRS agent to kind of take their time and do that. So they're not going to do that.
What would you say would be a big red flag to the IRS when you submit your tax returns when you're an e-commerce business? Any big red flags that you should be aware of?
Sure. I like to break things down into as many categories as possible. For example, you don't want a business that generated, say, 30,000 in income revenues, and then they've got two expense categories. Let's say it's supplies or materials, and then they've got miscellaneous, and there's a big amount for miscellaneous. That's like a red flag. I'm dying to know what's the breakdown of that if I'm an IRS agent. What did you put in this miscellaneous? Let's not create these big expense items that are not accurate.
Right. Specific categories, enough categories. Some people are asking how to classify something like business education or a course or coaching in QuickBooks.
Kind of to my previous question is the categories. It's a chart of accounts that is relevant and it makes sense for that business. We have the ability to really create any expense category. Education is certainly one of them. Dues and subscriptions, education, coaching. We may want to categorize things and have that as an expense category.
That's great. Could you explain a little bit more about the benefit of working with someone who maybe has an e-commerce background or specialty? Because a lot of us, we just use our normal CPA that our parents used, right? What is the benefit to finding someone more experienced in this area?
Really, I think there's two things here, two questions we want to address. To go to the specialist, it's always better because they know their business, they're passionate about it most likely. They have other clients in that same industry, so they can support you in a better way. And the second kind of question I would say is, do you need somebody local? It's becoming lesser important now to have somebody who's right in your neighborhood because it's all virtual now. I had a physical office, Dylan, for 26 years. A little over a year we went virtual and it's been the best thing possible because I've got a team that's anywhere in the country. For me, it's becoming lesser important to have somebody who's right in my backyard. Rather, I have somebody who really knows what they're doing wherever they are in the country.
Right. Especially if you are in a small town of 700 people in the Midwest or something. There's like one CPA for everyone or something. They might be more experienced in farm write-offs and agriculture, but e-commerce is a little different. So how would they get connected with you to see if it's the right fit to work with you and use your services?
Yeah, 100%. esenshi.com/Dylan. There's a place where they can put their information and request a consultation. There's no charge for it, just to learn where they're at, what are they looking to do, what are their needs, and see if we can, if it's a good fit. So it's more of an introductory thing where they get to meet us, talk about their situation.
Yes. And I can totally attest to having someone who knows what they're doing with your taxes. It is so worth it, just so you can sleep at night, right? You don't have to worry about, did I do this right? Did I submit this correctly? Am I going to owe something? Having that all taken care of can give you such peace of mind, especially especially as you're scaling your business.
Yeah.
Important to get that going right away versus bringing someone in when there's already a mess. And I have found every time that they pay for themselves with the savings that they get us. It's almost like an insurance as well. You know that someone who's qualified, who knew what they were doing, did your taxes. Because so many times small business owners are guessing when they're doing taxes.
Entrepreneurs, we are creative and we are reading stuff and talking to people, and we have all these ideas, but we don't know for a fact if they are relevant for us. Having somebody who we can, reach out and say, hey, I've got this question, it just frees up the mind knowing the answer of, should I set it up as a home office, or I'm thinking of taking a trip? What do I need to be careful about? Just kind of having that access and getting that question answered. It's just so much better for an entrepreneur. Just part of our services.
So worth it. We'd love to have you back maybe next year before tax season. We should do this again.
Sure. No, it was a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
I hope you learned a lot from Salim. It was a pleasure to speak with him. If you would like to have that free consultation with Salim and his team, I'm going to link all of their information below. It is so worth it to have someone who is strategic with your taxes behind your small business. Salim and his team, that is what they can help you with. If you'd like me to bring more experts on like this, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below and just let us know if you would like us to be interviewing more experts like Salim.
Until now, I didn't really have many sales in my Etsy shop. Almost 2 months ago, I bought the course. I can see a steady growth, increase in my views, especially in my conversion rate, which was very low before.